The 112th edition of Milan-San Remo, the longest one-day race on the pro calendar, takes place this Saturday, the 20th of March. La Classicissima di Primavera, as it's well known. It's the first monument of the year, and honestly, we cannot wait to watch it.
No, so many superstars, all on top form. It's going to be a belter, isn't it? And as the race is organised by RCS, it means we're able to show in all GCN Plus territories, excluding Latin America and New Zealand, sorry about that. But it does mean that this marks the first monument that we can show on GCN Plus to our audience in North America, which we are very excited about.
And we hope that you are too. Anyway, coming up, we are going to take a look at the course and talk about some of the potential winners.
Which could take a couple of hours.
It could take a long time this year, couldn't it? And we're also going to condemn a few unlucky souls with our GCN predictions.
Let's get going.
Let's start then by reminding ourselves of last year's edition, which, remember, took place in August. So the race was decided in an exhilarating two-up sprint on the Via Roma between the now world champion Julian Alaphilippe of De Koning Quick-Step and complete all-round mega talent Wout van Aert of Jumbo-Visma. And it was the Belgian that took the win. The Australian Michael Matthews won the bunch sprint behind and took third on the day.
Yeah, that was some ride from Bling Matthews, wasn't it? Given that he was barged up against a wall on his way up the Poggio and crossed the line pretty badly cut up.
Yeah, it was some ride. He's another rider that should win this in his career, but might not do.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Peter Sagan finished fourth on the day, so just off the podium, and that was his 8th top 10 of the race from 10 appearances. Remarkable. This is perhaps the last big race that he hasn't won that he'll be wanting to tick off his list before the end of his career.
Yeah, although, as he's still recovering from COVID-19, it does seem unlikely to happen this year. And with Mathieu van der Poel, Wout van Aert, Alaphilippe, Pidcock, Hershey and Pogacar seemingly getting better and better each year, time's starting to run out for him, isn't it?
In some ways it is, yeah. And it would be tragic, really, wouldn't it, if he got to the end of his career and didn't win Milan-San Remo. It's not going to be easy. Classics demigods Philippe Gilbert and Greg Van Avermaet also featured in a top 10 last year, in 8th and 9th respectively. Another couple of legends of the sport that are yet to take the win at San Remo. If Gilbert were to do it this year, he would have won all 5 monuments through his career.
He would, yeah. Now, the 2020 route was a slight deviation from tradition. It avoided the usual cappy 3 short climbs in order to avoid some of the busier Riviera towns during the COVID pandemic. But let's take a look at this year's route, a little bit more traditional.
Yeah, 2021, it kind of returns to its usual route. Totals 299 kilometres. So if you add on the neutral zone, that means that the rides are in for a 300-kilometre plus day.
Yeah, now, whilst the Capi are back, one omission will be the Passo del Turchino that usually features in the middle of the race. Now, this has been replaced by the Colla del Giovo due to a landslide on the Turchino that won't be cleared in time.
It's a shame in some ways, isn't it? Just after 240 kilometres of racing, where most races usually conclude, the action will probably start. There are those 3 short climbs that Si mentioned, the Capo Melle, the Capo Cervo and the Capo Berta, and they will wake up the no doubt rather tired bunch ahead of the iconic climbs of the Cipressa and Poggio, which come in the last 25 Ks.
Yeah, and the top of the Poggio comes with less than 6 kilometres remaining. We're almost assured of the usual scenario of punchers and climbers trying their best to get rid of the sprinters on the Poggio, and then the sprinters trying their best not to be got rid of.
It is like that every year, isn't it? It's one of those races that can and has been won by both types of rider. From the top of there, it'll be treated the usual pro cycling frantic and quite frankly dangerous descending clinic down the tricky hairpin descent. And then before you know it, they'll be on the beautiful traditional finish on the Via Roma. Yeah,
this race is often referred to as the Sprinters Classic. However, given that we haven't had a big bunch sprint finished here since Arnaud Démare won in 2016, I'm not sure that's still an accurate subheading for a race that's been decided with small groups or solo attacks.
Yeah, last 4 editions, I think, have been that way decided, haven't they? We're currently expecting to see 6 former winners on the start line. They are Alexander Kristoff, John Degenkolb, Arnaud Démare himself, Vincenzo Nibali, Julian Alaphilippe and Wout van Aert. But we're also reckoning that Michał Kwiatkowski of Ineos Grenadiers will take the start too, which would bring the total up to 7. The only rider on the list that I can't quite picture winning this year is John Degenkolb. Who, despite still looking really strong, has never quite reached the level he was at when he won the race back in 2015. He, of course, experienced that horrific crash in a training camp many years ago. I hope I'm wrong on that one, though. He's a lovely bloke, John Degenkolb, isn't he? But against that kind of company, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, deserving of a big win though, isn't he? Now, aside from the winners, we've got a heck of a lot of protagonists from previous editions. In fact, on the provisional start list, we have, at the time of filming, 13 previous podium finishers and about 40 riders who finished inside the top 10.
The oldest rider in the race will be Philippe Gilbert himself. Now, as we mentioned before, he's on a mission to win all 5 monuments, strive for 5, and if he pulls it off, he'd be added to a list that's quite short. Merckx, De Vlaming and Van Looy are the only others, and that really would be quite something, wouldn't it?
Do you think he can do it though?
Wow. I wouldn't have said that he'd won Flanders when he did, and he did that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said he'd won Paris-Roubaix when he did that. So what do I know, basically? That said, I am going to say no. He's not going to win this year, especially given the form I've seen from some of the other favourites.
Well, yeah, and Lotto Soudal, actually, his team are spoiled for choice at this race, because alongside Gilbert, they are lining up with Degenkolb, as we've already mentioned, unlikely, but still, former winner, and Caleb Ewan, former runner-up, plus Tim Wellens, who's one of the most attacking riders in the bunch. Although Ewan did climb off at Tirreno Adriatico, he has been pretty unwell, it's safe to say they've got a lot of options.
They do.
Basically, regardless of how the finale pans out. 4
options, that's not a bad option to have, really, is it? Bahrain Victorious have won this race before with Vincenzo Nibali when he was riding for them, and this year come to the race with quite a powerful pairing of Matej Mohoric and Sonny Colbrelli. Mohoric is a rider who could go on the attack from quite a long way out, and he'll still be able to adopt his trademark top tube descending for one last time before the official ban is brought in on April the 1st.
That would be quite the swan song, wouldn't it, for that position if it wins in Milan-San Remo. Anyway, multiple options for them. A few teams that could also have this strategy, aren't there? So Trek are bringing Nibali, who's won it so before, and Mads Pedersen, one of the fastest sprinters in the bunch, and he loves a long day out, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? We should probably mention De Koning Quickstep as well, shouldn't we? They're fielding Alaphilippe, who admittedly, as well as attacking, can also sprint. But they've got Sam Bennett as well, who I think it's fair to say is probably the fastest sprinter in the world right now, and was also climbing remarkably well over the course of Paris-Nice last week. They've also got another sprint option with Davide Ballerini. He's taken a few wins this year, including Omloop Het Nieuwsblad just a couple of Saturdays ago. So an embarrassment of riches, really, on that team.
Indeed, yeah. Bora arrive with Paris-Nice winner Max Schachmann. I didn't think I'd be saying that. But anyway, to try and follow attacks. Ackermann to deliver the goods in the sprint. And Sagan, who, I mean, it does seem unlikely that he'll be up there, given what we've just seen in Tirreno. But with him, you just wouldn't write him off, would you?
You can't write
him off,
can you? UAE Team Emirates, meanwhile, have Fernando Gaviria as an option for the sprint if it ends up that way. But they'll be hoping, of course, that Tadej Pogacar can light the race up on the climbs and try a solo move, perhaps. And after seeing his performances recently at Tirreno Adriatico, I don't think any of us would put that past him.
No, I can't wait. And we haven't even mentioned 2 rather significant figures omission so far. Last year's winner, Wout van Aert, and arch nemesis, Mathieu van der Poel. The prospect of seeing them light up on the Poggio and seeing who, if anyone, can stay with them is quite the prospect.
It is.
Isn't it?
It's mouth-watering. I can't wait. It's a shame, actually, they're not able to go over the Ticino Pass this year, because Van der Poel would probably go on the attack at that point in the race, wouldn't he? I guess we'll have to wait and see how he's recovered, though, from those monumental efforts to win that stage of Tirreno last Sunday. But I personally don't see it overly affecting his form on Saturday.
No, I agree with you there. I mean, it could conceivably be a repeat of that dramatic finish between the two of them from last year's Tour of Flanders, couldn't it? I mean, Van der Poel was unable to go with Alaphilippe and Van Aert last year, but he's clearly on better form now, which is whether they can get rid of Alaphilippe, I guess.
Well, we'll wait and see on that one. Now, as always, with this race that suits sprinters, climbers, breakaway artists, and pretty much everything in between, there are far too many riders to name everybody that's in with a chance of winning this year. I guess you could throw in the likes of Nizzolo or Viviani, Trentin, and Kort Nielsen into the mix. So make sure you let us know your favourites in the comment section just down below this video. Right, Dan, it's time to give the GCN kiss of death to our favourites for the first monument of the year. Okay. Well, just before we get into that, I'm going to make a prediction as to how I think this race is going to unfold. I reckon it's probably going to be pretty steady for the opening 5 hours or so of this race. We'll get a big break that will go up the road, mainly consisting of second division team riders trying to get a little bit of exposure. Oh, interesting, Dan. That's not a prediction that happens.
every year.
Yeah, it is kind of the most predictable race in the whole calendar for 6 hours, and then the most unpredictable for the final 30 minutes of the race, isn't it? Arguably, knowing the race will probably be blown to bits on the Poggio, and possibly even the Cipressa before that, makes it even more exciting. Right, who's your pick then?
I gotta say, after seeing his sprints at UAE, his attack at Strada Bianca, and his relentless aggression at Tirreno Adriatico, I cannot see anybody other than Mathieu van der Poel winning this race. He's in phenomenal shape. He could go solo on the Poggio. He could go solo on the Cipressa, quite frankly. He's out-sprinted the fastest finishers in the bunch. He never ceases to amaze me. No. I think he's the one. It just depends whether he gets bored.
He's next level, isn't it? Well, in that case, I'm really going to go out on a limb here and predict Wout van Aert. I mean, he out-sprinted Caleb Ewan at Tirreno and out-climbed Egan Bernal at the same race. The guy, talent knows no bounds, really, does it? Outsider for you?
Matteo Jorgensen, the American from Movistar. He was up there last year, 8th at Paris-Nice, but he won't be on the radars of many, or he wouldn't have been until this.
Heinrich Hausler.
Oh.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned him so far, have we? But he almost won in 2009. 12 years later, he's going to wind back the clock and take the win.
That's right. It was all down to his team in 2009, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right, yeah. Well, did you ride that race with him, 2009?
I didn't know. I mean, he probably would have won it.
He probably would have done, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Anyway, let's hear the thoughts now of a few of our other GCN presenters.
My prediction for Milan-San Remo is Wout van Aert.
My prediction for Milan-San Remo, I think Wout van Aert is going to win again.
Okay, my pick for Milan-San Remo has got to be Sam Bennett. He's in the form of his life. He's got the strongest lead out, I think, of his career, and well, he's just dominating already in the sprints. It's just flying for.
I'm going for Wout van Aert because I think the way he climbs and the way he descends is just fantastic, and he's going to come out on top. What about you, Ollie?
I'm going to go for Wout van Aert as well. I think he can win in the most number of ways. Like I say, if it's a bunch, he can win. If he goes away on his own or with Van der Poel, he can win, and he's a bit of a stronger sprinter than Van der Poel.
You heard it here first.
So that's it. Do not forget to tune in this Saturday on GCN+. We will have a pre-race build-up show, and make sure you stick around for the breakaway afterwards, where Dan is going to be sat down with Brian Smith to analyse the race and discuss the results.
Also, don't forget to let us know your pre-race predictions in the comments below. No leaving them after the race. I've seen people do that before. Especially leave us your cheeky outsiders. They're always very interesting. Anyway, thank you very much for watching our preview show. We will see you on Saturday, everyone. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video.